Hello and welcome back to ParticularPixels. I'm Xiaoling and I've spent most of the weekend playing the Recon Wildlands Ghost War PvP beta. Quite a mouthful. Most of you already know that PvP is coming to Recon Wildlands in the form of a 4 vs 4 class-based mode. I enjoyed Recon Wildlands quite a lot actually, and when they announced the PvP mode for the game, I was partially intrigued, but at the same time I wasn't really holding my breath. As I wasn't really sure what it was going to bring to the game. I kind of expected it to be a shallow mode added just to please players who wanted PvP, if I have to be entirely honest, so I wasn't expecting a lot. Well, after spending quite a few hours playing the game, I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised. I've actually ended up enjoying the mode immensely, and now I'm looking super forward to the full release. Why did the beta have to end and why didn't they extend it? It took a while to get into the swing of things. Enemies were hard to see, death was swift, and since it's been a good few months since I last played Ghost Recon, it took some time to get used to the shooting mechanics as well. For those of you who have followed the channel for a while know that I'm an avid Rainbow Six Siege player. I play a lot of Rainbow Six Siege and I have done since the closed beta back in the day. I enjoy the methodical nature of the game. Now you might be saying, how can you compare Siege and Wildlands? Siege is a first-person shooter and Wildlands is a third-person shooter. Siege is indoors, Wildlands is outdoors. But I do want to say though that the Wildlands PvP beta contains some of the same kinds of things that I enjoy about Rainbow Six Siege. And as a direct result, the more I understood the mode and how it should be played, the more enjoyment I got out of each map. And by the end of the beta, this last 2 days in the beta, I was doing consistently well, getting a lot of kills and actually making a difference in the team, getting a lot of wins. Because at the end of the day, Ghost War is a team game about communication and tactics. And as I said earlier, death comes quickly if you're not careful. You need to pay attention to your sound and you need to be very aware of what's going around you, just like you have to do in a game like Rainbow Six Siege. It is not a run and gun experience. So how does the game work? At the start of each round, each player will choose a class. Like Siege, there can't be duplicates. The beta was limited to 7 of the 12 classes. I don't know if they're going to be adding any more classes in the upcoming future. Each of the classes has 2 primary weapons. The rest of the items were set, at least they were in the beta. You could choose a perk as well, which was selectable depending on the class category you were. So if any marksman class could select marksman perks, support, assault, etc., that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the beta also had a very limited selection of perks, so hopefully there'll be a lot more in the full release. However, you could completely customize the way your character looked like you could do in the main game with tons and tons of selections, which is very cool. The only mode available in the beta as well was Team Deathmatch, so the first team to down all of the enemy team members basically wins in a best of 3 scenario. So when a teammate is down, they'll need to be revived. There's no time limit to revive your teammates and there's no revive limit either. But when they wait to be revived, they can switch to one of the other players on their team's camera and watch what's going on. But they can also ping the map, acting essentially as another set of eyes. The revive mechanic is actually quite interesting. It forces you to make some tough decisions. Do you revive your teammate and risk getting shot? Is somebody watching the body? Have them mind the area? For example, if you're the last man standing versus 3 enemy team members, it's often a very good idea to sneak around and try and revive at least one of your teammates, as it will increase your chances of winning. Everyone on the opposing team needs to be downed in order to win, otherwise it's going to be a draw. Also, health doesn't regenerate in this mode, so if you want to heal up after a gunfight or you need to refill your ammo, you'll need to go to one of the 3 supply stations located on each of the map. And again, this is also a risky thing to do, since people can quite easily see you trying to refill. In addition to this, there are also recon stations at the center of each map that unlocks a few minutes into each map. Capturing it will highlight the enemy's position for a short while, after which it goes on cooldown, and when the cooldown is finished, you can activate it again. However, the downside is that when you start activating it, the whole enemy team is alerted to the fact that you are now trying to capture the icon. They know where it is and they can very easily kill you. 3 of the operators in the beta also have access to drones. Now, I'm not going to talk about the operators themselves, or at least the classes themselves, too much Siege there. I'll do that in another video, but the drones are a big mechanic as they are in the campaign of Recon Wildlands. In PvP, they operate in a similar way. You fly them out to spot the enemy. However, drones are visible to both sides the moment they go up into the air. They have a limited range, they have a limited batteries, and they can be shot down relatively easily, and they have a relatively long cooldown, but you don't have a limit. As far as I could tell, at least in the beta, there's no limit to the amount of drones that you can throw up. If an enemy is marked with a drone, it doesn't last for very long, but it is long enough so that you can zone into where they are. Also, if an enemy is marked, there's a delay before they're notified that they're marked, giving the spotter a slight advantage. Also, throwing up drones might give your position away, since the enemy can see where the drone originates from before it goes up into the sky. Each match lasts 8 minutes, and the timer is actually not present until I believe the time reaches 1 minute 30 seconds or something like that. So you may have less time than you think you do. The beta had 4 maps to play on. They're all pretty varied and quite enjoyable. And on top of that, each map can have a variety of weather conditions as well as various times of day, which added a nice variety to each map. So you could be at night with a thunderstorm going on, which is actually pretty cool. There, however, were a few issues with the beta that I would like to talk about. Clothing templates are the first thing that come to mind. As I mentioned earlier, like the main game, you can customize the look of each of your classes to your heart's content, but there is no template feature like there is in campaign, so you can't switch between different outfits. And the reason this is important is that camouflage is extremely important in the game unless you want to stick out like a sore thumb and die. Each map has a different camouflage requirement, whether it's desert or it's jungle or it's urban, and you'll want to have a template that will allow you to switch between different camo sets depending on the map that you're going to play. I think that this is something that really needs to be added. I know there's 30 seconds or something between maps or when you load into a first map, but you can't expect players to go in and change their camo every time they load a new map. That's just absolutely ridiculous. So I think this feature needs to be added. Gunsmith is the other thing. There's no way to customize the weapons that your classes have except from their color presets. So you can't change the grips, you can't change the muzzles, scopes, nothing like that. And I think there really needs to be some degree of customization in PvP, within reason, of course. I understand that each class has set weapons for balance purposes, which is fine, Siege is the same, but at least allow us some choice regarding our weapon modifications. Progression is something that's also a little bit of a concern. You level up, you unlock new classes as you get more XP. Once you've unlocked all 6 classes in the beta, you were like level 11, which makes me think that if there's 12 classes, then maybe the level cap is going to be somewhere around 20. And the question I have is, are there going to be new unlocks? Are there going to be new items for customization? At the moment, all the customizations are unlocked from the start, so you can just wear whatever you want. So of course, many folks are going to choose camo with ghillie suits and that kind of thing. Now, I know some of you may disagree with me here, but I think that adding clothing unlocks to level progression might be something interesting to do. So you start off with only civvy options, and as you level up, you start unlocking military camo and cryo shirts and things like that. It'll give you something to look forward to, and perhaps a sense of a progression, or even if they allow weapon unlocks as you level up, getting new grips and scopes and things like that. I'm not saying it has to be those things, but I think there definitely needs to be some kind of progression linked to the leveling in multiplayer. There was also only one mode in the beta, as I mentioned earlier. I expect that there are going to be more objective focused modes, at least I hope so, in the full game, because this game is perfect for objective modes. I think it would do really, really well with those. In-game chat is disabled unless you're in the actual game itself, so during character selection, during the map loading screen, and during the score screen, there's no way to communicate with your team or anyone on the other team. I think this needs to be changed. You need to allow people to be able to communicate. The Ubisoft Notification Center, I'm sure this is a thorn in the side of many, also constantly bombards you with notifications of people leaving and people joining. So by the end of the match, you have 20 notifications which you really don't care about. And honestly, you really don't need to know. So there absolutely needs to be a way to disable this. It's very, very annoying. There is also no way to vote kick players. We had a guy who was basically AFK for the entire match. The game, of course, didn't bother kicking him, even though he was AFK. Eventually, in the last round, one of our team found a way to vote kick him. I'm not sure how he did that, because I still don't know how to do that. At which point, you have to press escape, and then you have to press F for yes. It's not very intuitive, and it's not very clear. I think the system needs to be made much easier for players to be able to use. There was also one match where a player would be spamming the ping constantly because he died, and obviously he wanted to be res, but he was literally just spamming the button so that no one on our team could hear any enemies nearby, and it ended up costing us the round. So aside from the ping button needing to have a cooldown, which I think needs to be implemented, the next match we ended up with the same people, which is an issue with the matchmaker. It'll keep you on the same team over and over and over until players leave. Anyways, this guy started spamming the ping button right from the start. When we asked him to stop, he became incredibly toxic for the next 15 minutes. And the only way to report players was at the end of the match. There's no way to do it from within the game. And at the end of the match, the option is under some sub-menu somewhere, so it's not particularly easy to find. There's also a lot of downtime between rounds, 30 seconds to choose your class. I felt that was a little bit too long. I think you spend a little bit too much time waiting. Also, if enough people leave in the middle of a match, the matchmaker takes you back to what looks like the lobby to find new players. It looks identical to when you first queue for a match, and I'm sure many people get confused and think, oh, maybe the match is over, I can just leave now, which makes this whole thing take even longer. And on top of that, it doesn't tell you that it's looking for new people for the same match, so as I said, it can be quite confusing. Numerous times I'd also be loaded into a match in the last round, so I'd be a spectator and then the match would end. And on occasion I was loaded in as a spectator in the first round of a match as well, which is a little bit odd. I mentioned players leaving when they died. This happened very often, resulting in your team or the other team being a man short or two people short. Sometimes players will load in to fill those empty spots, but other times you'll end up with less players for the entirety of the match and be at a disadvantage. Apparently in the full release there's going to be XP penalties for this type of behavior, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see to see if this is an effective way at stopping it. But all in all though, I've had a really good time with the PvP beta. I can't wait until it goes live, the full version at least. It exceeded all of my expectations, and of course it was by no means perfect, as I've been talking about, but it's certainly something that has a lot of potential, and it's certainly something that I'm going to be spending a lot of time with and probably be making a bunch of guides for as well. Anyway guys, that's been a look at the Ghost War PvP beta and my impressions of it. As usual, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I've been Xiaoling. Until next time.
Shit, I'm hit! Shaking man down! Broke visual with the enemy.
One hostile remaining. Let's get this done.
Man down, man down.
You're the only one left. The recon tower is back online.